underground, 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 underground,
Greetings, surface dwellers. My name is Michael, and these are my chthonic musings. Welcome to day 2 of RPG a Day 2025. Today's word is prompt. Alright, prompt. Should you, whether you're a game master or a player, always show up promptly to your gaming session at the scheduled time and date? And if for some reason you cannot show up promptly, always alert your game master, other players, and host that you will not be able to arrive at the scheduled time? Yes. Should you learn to design and engineer prompts for artificial intelligence so that computers can create your adventures for you? No. Should you cultivate your own life experiences, an understanding of the world and all of the things around us so that you can prompt your own brain to create your own adventures? Yes. And as a related question, should I follow up on my promise made in Musings number 4 to show you a fully fleshed out multi-column dungeon event encounter table? Yes, I should. And in fact, I believe I will. Okay, folks, so here's the setup. I'm going back to the roots, and I'm going to draw some inspiration from the original Holmes basic set and the B1 in Search of the Unknown that came with it, that started my journey into tabletop role-playing games so many years ago. This complex, this dungeon that our adventurers are going to be exploring is going to have cut stone, worked passageways, corridors, rooms, etc. And it's also going to have some cavernous areas as well. Unlike the B1 module, we're going to have caverns, and not just 2 levels with caverns below. We're going to have also caverns above. So we start in at the dungeon, standard dungeon worked area, and we have the various caverns. Now the down below, we've got a threat. We've got this demonic pool, and I'm using the word demonic very generally. Just you want to call it foul, corrupted, evil, whatever you want to call it. But so we've got a danger down below. We also have up above some old mines and some bizarre substance that is mined from the top and brought down to this foul, evil pool for terrible purposes. Now, going through and looking at the wandering monster tables from both the home basic rules down below on the screen here, and also the wandering monsters off on the top left-hand side from the table from B1 in Search of the Unknown. We're going to pull out a few things that we'd like to incorporate. So in this dungeon complex, our main adversaries are going to be the troglodytes. And they're not just normal troglodytes, with savage and not very intelligent. They're bumped up a little bit. There's some sort of this dark evil presence is organizing them and using them as unwitting pawns in a sense. And that way we can also have a second group, kobolds, which the troglodytes are dominating and using to mine this foul substance and cart it down to the area below. We're also going to pull in, some various creepy crawlies, So we're going to have some giant rats and giant centipedes and some sturges. Also, looking at this wandering table, we see some things that we don't typically see in current adventures. We've got elves and dwarves and conjurers and swordsmen and berserkers and various things on this table that we don't typically see nowadays. And we're going to use that as like kind of an inspiration, and say that, well, maybe there's a rival adventuring party that may show up, and they'll show up. If they do, they'll show up after the player characters have already entered and are in the complex, in the dungeon. So that'll be interesting. And then we'll also have, for this dark evil pool, a set of entries in our event table, encounter table, that drive a progression of events increasingly more dangerous as time goes on. So the more time the player characters spend tooling around and exploring and triggering events, the more likely that the danger is going to ratchet up. If they make their way down to find this pool, they can then have a particular encounter that will stop that progression. All right, so let's go through this table. The first row, which is on a 2d6, whenever you have come up with an event or encounter, if you get a 2 or 3 on the first row, the first entry is 3 giant rats. If that comes about and that encounter happens, it gets once it's resolved, it gets checked. That check mark gets checked. And the second time, if it happens, that we come across an event and on a 2 to 3, instead it's a giant centipede, 1 giant centipede. And I should just say, these are all examples. So this can get calibrated, redone to whatever game system and party size, So, but it is what it is. So here's some examples. If we have the giant centipede encounter, the next time on a 2 to 3, we go to 2d4 minus 1 sturges. So we're talking about 1 to 7 sturges with the bell curve. 4 would be the most typical entry, 4 sturges. And there's no checkbox here, so this can occur as many times as it needs to. Otherwise, on the rest of the table, if we get to the third entry, the third column here, and it's checked, and we get that entry again, we've got a standing rule that we just move down to the next entry down on the table. Which means if we fill up enough boxes, the only thing that can happen is is down at the very bottom. It's going to drive everything down to the bottom of the table, where we can see, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the demon pool progression. All right, so going back, the entries for 4 or 5, we've got the first column. First thing that happens if we get this entry is 8 cobalt miners and 2 troglodyte guards. Can also see here that there's a little note in parentheses, empty cart, because this is a wandering encounter, and so these can be a group of kobolds and their troglodyte guards moving from the bottom caverns up towards the mining area, so that they can then refill their cart, do their mining and refill their carts and turn around in the opposite direction. And we'll also see on a different row for 6 to 8 in the very third column, a very similar entry: 8 kobold miners, 2 troglodyte guards, but they've got a full cart, so they're going in the opposite direction. And we'll treat these as 2 different groups. There's plenty of kobolds, and there might even be more than these 16. You might design an area in this dungeon where there's another holding area for replacement kobolds that can be, or the third shift, or what have you. All right, continuing on the row for 4 to 5. Second column, rival party arrives. And what I'm kind of thinking here is, again, back to a throwback to, B1 in Search of the Unknown. B1 had, at the very beginning of the entry to the dungeon, set of magic mouths that would warn you, you're invading this complex of the people that created it. And in this case, I'd like to do something a little bit different. But inspired by that, I should say. So let's say that this was a dwarven complex originally. And so we've got a set of, in the very entrance to this dungeon, we've got, maybe the first room or antechamber, a set of dwarven statues from, way back when, in times of old, when in better times. But as the entry is made, first by our player characters, so they're going to experience this, a similar type of the mouths of these statues move, and this dark presence, we have some sort of event there, something evocative, something that says, this place is corrupted, this is not right. Maybe these statues are speaking in a black speech, or substitute whatever makes sense in your game of choice. If you have alignment languages, maybe it's evil, whatever evil speech is, or the black tongue, or what have you. But make it memorable. And the other thing that's important is that it's audible. So when we get to this entry with the rival party, they're going to trigger the same thing. So depending on where the party is, the player characters, they may hear this, or they may not. If they're locked away in some room, this event occurs, but the player characters are not aware of it. But it triggers that the rival party has arrived into the complex. and we check that off. And if we encounter this row again and another event is triggered, we go to the third column, and it is actually encountering the rival party. And they can have, the rival party has motivations. Let's say, they're here to collect loot, but there's room for reaction rolls and role playing, and how does this pan out? So that could be quite interesting. Moving on to the third row, it's this row is very straightforward. It's just troglodyte encounters. One troglodyte guard. If that happens, and we check that off, the next time it's 2 troglodyte guards. If that event occurs, we check it off. The third time we hit this row, it is again the kobold miners, similar to the prior row, and very straightforward. And once again, if we go through an entire row and it's all checked off, and we hit that entry again, we just move down to the next row below it. So let's talk about row 4. So row 4 occurs on a 9 to 11, so not totally rare, but unlikely. And the first entry is a caustic slime trail. Okay, so this is a foreshadowing of the gelatinous cube in column 2. This is the gelatinous cube has moved through this area and left a residue. So you can treat this how you like, work through this. It might be, the residue might be a little slippery, so maybe there's deck saves or whatever in your system. It is caustic, so it might do a little damage to the soles of your boots. The soles of the boots of your party. Have fun with it. Trick it out. But it's not a super dangerous encounter. It's more of a foreshadowing of, hey, why is there a slime trail, a caustic slime trail in this corridor, or where they happen to be? And then, of course, entry 2, gelatinous cube. And I'm thinking, this is a low-level adventure. So now we're getting into the little beefier, maybe more dangerous territory here. And similarly, if we get through that encounter, and the third column is a carrion crawler, which, depending on the system, back in the Holmes book, the carrion crawlers did no damage at all, but they had a paralyzing attack, and you could have a little fun with that. So, if a carrion crawler comes through and paralyzes your entire party, and moves its tentacles over and kind of licks your party and clean, and it paralyzes them, and then moves off, doesn't do any damage, but you could then perhaps ask for periodic saving throws, and do some possible dungeon events, with ratcheting up certain tension, in that if another event is triggered and your party is still paralyzed, then there could be some big trouble. And maybe hope that it's that your encounter, if any, before recovering from this paralysis, is maybe the rival party, and or maybe the rival party robs you blind and leaves. Who knows? All right, finally we get down to the bottom. This is the progression of the demon pool spawn. And what I'm thinking here is like I didn't see any actual demons in the Holmes book, but they had a lot of undead. So we're gonna lean into that. This demon pool. This is a dark, malign vessel. Is and please excuse my art here, my doodling. I am not an artist, but hopefully it gives you, my picture here gives you a little impression of what I intended. Something grotesque, monstrous. It's got little streams of who knows. It's water, dark water, brackish water, ichor. You decide, what you want to put here, but they also have little crystals for eyes set into the stone here, and so that's important. So these crystals are, let's say, dimly lit with a sickly green glow or whatever, make something that's evocative to that. And so as we trigger these events, what's going to happen is, in progression from the outer edges, so from the most leftmost figure to the rightmost figure, we're going to have, if the first event is triggered, the two eyes of those figures are going to go from dimly lit to brightly lit and then dark. And that occurs during the trigger. And what happens is two troglodytes that are near the player characters turn into zombies. They're transformed right at the very beginning of the encounter, and then it's an encounter with zombies. And you may have to do a little bit of playing around and creating a stat block for such a thing. If your game doesn't have a template for zombies to apply to troglodytes, then be creative, come up with something. If you've got zombies that have claws, probably more than slam attacks, and they still smell bad like troglodytes, probably even worse than before. So have fun and with coming up with that, and it's I believe in you. All right, along those veins, if this event, the second time this event occurs, or this row, we're going to move on, and once again, so the most outer, at this point, ignoring the darkened eyed figures, will be the two surrounding the center one, and same type of thing. Now I'm envisioning that the party may not see this, so I'm saying this is what happens, but all they may say they're out in a corridor or in a cavern, and they just encounter two troglodytes, and then right at the very beginning of the encounter, they become something other than troglodytes, and there's a transformation. You describe it, and these troglodytes become ghouls. So we're ratcheting things up a little bit, but similar to the prior entry. And then if we get all the way to the end, the final one, the central figure, is a troglodyte that is transformed into a wight. And if we're going old school, if you're playing something old school, we're talking about level drans. And this is some nasty stuff. So, there we go. And that's a sample of a multi-column random event table. Oh, and one last thing. I kind of was envisioning that if the player characters get down to this room with this corrupted pool, prior to, when they get down there, that the check marks on this table would determine the the state of the pool at the time, and that if any of these events have not been triggered, the next one would be triggered. So if none of the check marks on the fifth row are checked, then they get to see what happens when the first event and 2 troglodytes are changed into zombies. If not, if they may move to the next one and they're fighting ghouls or the white. So the quicker they get down and deal with this, the easier it's going to be for them. And I'm also envisioning that, okay, you pry out these little crystals. They could be crystals or gems. Maybe they're worth something. Maybe they're not. It's up for you to decide. Out of the eye sockets, then done. This threat is eliminated. So just a thought, but of course you can modify it. If you choose to, use this for something, run it the way you want to. And so, until I resurface, may your successes be many and your failures be memorable.